Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am back with another stepped up emergency card kit for you today. We're going to make 4 cards using kit 52. It is the Swift Encouragement Kit. It is a 20-page PDF. There are 6 resizable PNG pages of sentiments and 6 resizable PNG background images. 10 of those PDF pages are available for free. You can get the short version with 4 pages and the card sketch in YouTube. Click on more or show more beneath the description box and go down to the bottom. You'll find a link to that download and a link to my Patreon where you can get 6 more pages, including the Karma and Era sentiments and sub-sentiments and one of the A2 panels. For my paid Patreon members, there are additional pages. The Sassy Friends get 7 A2 panels, or they were supposed to, but actually there's extra bonus content because I was having trouble with the files and I am so appreciative that you all were patient with me. So definitely check out the link to the limited time access files. And then our Sassy supporters, that $5 tier, also get all of our strip sentiments in white text on black. Our $12 tier, the Sasketiers, get all of our sentiments as resizable image files along with 6 pages of PDF digital paper. And then the Sassy Champions get those resizable sentiments and then each of those digital papers as a resizable image. If you're a Patreon member, make sure that you are logged all the way into Patreon if you're using the quick links. That way you'll be sure you have access to those files. So let's go ahead and get started. This first card is super quick and easy. We're starting with one of our printable pages, and these backgrounds already have sentiments on them. This page is available in the version of the kit that you can download for free from Patreon. Okay, so if you're new to Patreon, I have a free membership tier, and it's just linked kind of in the post that I have pinned to the top. I am using an A2 rectangle to cut this out. I was trying to center the sentiment. Guess what? It is not centered by the time I get done, but I do think it's a good tip. If you have a little bit more patience, you might center it first, and then that would be totally handled. And then I'm going to use the Heart Hands dies. These are new-ish from Spellbinders, and they are going to create this little heart that goes right around the sentiment that is perfectly sized for it. There's both a shadow layer and hand layers. The pinky is separate on both of those hands, and they come together really quickly. If you wanted to, you could add some shading and sort of dress this up a little bit, but I was just really going for quick and easy. In our card sketch, the sketch is showing us a circle in the center with our sentiment and then little banners that kind of stick out of the outside. Well, so here's the thing. I made this card first and then pulled the sketch from this card. No, I don't have banners on this card, but I liked the idea of sort of a sentiment in the middle, really making it that focal image, but then not just a circle, right? Something that makes it so the circle has some edges, something coming out, some banners, some anything, right? And so the hands kind of do that, right? We get the wrist a little bit, and that's working really well. Plus, then you have a place to put your bracelets. There are little friendship bracelets in here. These come together really quickly and easily, and the die cuts out a couple of those circles all at once, so you can just layer them up. You could also skip that. It does not need bracelets. I love that you could put so many different sentiments on here. The collection this came from has a stamp set, and it has a better press hot foil set that has lots of things that fit right between these hands. But if you dug through your stash, there are so many things I have that I know would fit. But I'm just going to sort of put those right around the sentiment. I love that this is a really encouraging, uplifting card. If you didn't know that that was a Taylor Swift quote that says, "You are beautiful, every little piece," no one needs to know, right? I did not put her name on the sentiments, but on the circle sentiments and the rectangle sentiments, they're really all quotes from Taylor Swift that I think are just really positive and encouraging. I think the bracelets really sort of hint at that, but again, make it your own. I have trimmed this down just a little smaller. We have 4 by 5 1/4, and then I'm adding that onto a piece of black cardstock that's 1/8 of an inch bigger, 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I'm kind of looking at it. It's still not quite centered, but it's close enough, my friends. It's close enough. If you are a Swiftie or if you like this collection, we're going to use this collection and one from Carissa Wiley today. Not all the pieces. I highly recommend. My friend Lauren at Lauren Taylor Made did an awesome video with, I think, like 3 different cards, and she is a Swiftie. I am not. Though when I sat down to watch the Eras Tour, like the movie version with my mom and my sisters and my aunt, I knew way more of her music than I thought I did. So I've added a little bit of 1mm thin foam onto the back of that panel, and I will add it onto my card base that is matte silver, and that finishes card number 1. For card number 2, we're going to do not some hot foiling. I did some hot foiling earlier. This is the Disco Impressions set. They are better press plates. And I hot foiled off camera with silver foil on matte silver cardstock, and then with a dark gray, like a light black, I don't know, foil onto that same matte silver. I liked the dark gray on matte silver, but here I am just stamping onto regular cardstock with my better press plates, and I've brought in some Brilliance pigment ink in silver. And I was shocked at how good the impression was. There is a stencil set that coordinates with this collection. You can use the stencils without the dies, without the better press plates. They can be used entirely on their own, and you just stencil in all the layers. But if you do what I did, then you can fill in the missing layers or not. I actually think they look pretty good not filling them in. So I'm using a mix of white shimmer ink and some silver ink, a pigment silver ink. These are all from Sukaneko, to fill in those extra layers. I wanted it to look like we were getting a slightly different texture of silver on each successive layer. You know, when it spins, not all of the shimmer looks the same on a disco ball. So I went back to the silver ink, just what was left over on my domed foam for that next layer. So it's a little lighter application. On the next one, I'll go a lighter application still. On the 5th layer, I think it's the 5th, you get the top of the disco ball. So I'm going to come in with that same ink just to give myself a layer of color. And then we're going to use some Astro paste. We're going to use Frostbite, and it's not going to occur to me until after I pull this off. So I'm going to put it back on, but we're going to use Frostbite, which is, it looks white, but it's clear and it's not iridescent. This is by far my favorite way to stencil these disco balls. I did it a couple other ways and ended up cutting the footage just because this video was getting long anyway. I also tried using just a shimmer pen. I found that the shimmer pen bled a little bit under the stencil. That could be user error. I'm going to set this aside to dry, by the way, overnight. And then I also tried heat embossing with Icicle's embossing powder from Pink and Maine that is clear with some glitter in it. And that one was also quite beautiful, but you have to do the first layer in the embossing powder because it's all pigment ink. So it just got a little fussy by the end. I'm going to go ahead and try once again to use a die to center our sentiment. And this is just the other half of that free page in the PDF that you can get from Patreon. I was pretty successful on that one, but I cleaned it up in my trimmer. So I have an A2 panel of silver glitter cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I cut the center out of it because I am not going to waste that. And then I went in an entire 1/4 inch for that black layer. So that's going to be 4 by 5 1/4, and then 1/8 of an inch after that for our pattern paper. What I love is that once it's A2, it's pretty easy for me to sort of trim slivers until everything looks centered. This gets more centered, and it says in your birthday era. And here's our disco ball. It's hard to capture it on camera, but it's got this great texture and shine. The one on the left is the hot foil. The one on the right, there's a die set. The impression on the dies is insane. I'm going to glue this right into the middle, and that is almost the card complete. So there are some little twinkle stars in one of the sets. These are in the same die set as the disco balls, the ones that you just run through your die cutting machine. And so we're going to add a few of those. They're a little boxy for me. And there's just the 3 sizes. We're going to grab some different ones later. I'm sure if you've been here a while, you'll know which twinkle stars, which unicorn sparkles we're about to grab. But for this card, it worked great. And I have a birthday card perfect for my son to take to his best friend's sister's birthday party. That's right. That's right. But that's card number 2. For card number 3, this was an experiment and I love it. I am using some pigment ink. This is Sapphire. It's a Delicata pigment ink from Sukaneko. And so it's got great shimmer in it and just a little bit of opacity, right? I can still see most of the black of the cardstock. But then I'm coming in with my Delicata silver ink as well. On top of that, we're going to add some of our Lisa Horton interference inks. Interference inks, if you haven't seen them, they're super popular right now, have pigment ink, I think it's pigment, that looks one color, and then mica that looks another color and really shows up on black. Well, because of the silver ink, we actually are getting both tones of the color here, and it's really beautiful. So I have Galaxy Dream here, and that's where you're getting that pinky tone. I'm going to grab Opal Blush as well, but honestly, they end up looking about the same on top of this background. I think I just had so much ink down already that all I'm really getting is a little bit of blue and then that same sort of pinky tone. They're not all that different, even though like when you're looking at the lids, they look very, very different. I think you could have grabbed either one. So here's my background. Looks like a hot mess, doesn't matter. I heat set that off camera and I'm bringing in this stencil that I keep using. I have had this for a long time and I'd used it maybe once and I think I've used it 5 times in the last 2 months. This is from Trinity Stamps. It's a 6x9 inch stencil. I think it's Good Morning Sunshine. I will link it below. And I am coming in with white shimmer ink. It's another Delicata from Sukaneko. And I am just stroking upward and going darker at the bottom and then lighter. And it looks like a disco ball coming through all of the like haze of a dance floor, of a club. It's so pretty. There's a second layer. So I pulled the first one off and then this one is offset. So I'm going to get some more stripes. But then if you layered these 2 up, there would be empty spaces in between. Do you see how cool that is? My friends, I was blown away. These are the Bestie Sentiments press plate sentiments that come from that same collection as the heart hands. And I'm just going to foil about half of them. You could better press them if you preferred. And then I'm also going to foil with that darker foil on my matte silver as well. I heated that up on my glimmer plate and then I'm running it through my die cutting machine and they're going to turn out beautifully. If you struggle at all with your hot foiling, better press plates, foil better than hot foil plates. I don't know why. And both of these are onto glossy cardstocks. It's a black glossy cardstock and then a matte silver cardstock. One is from Trinity Stamps. The other is from Michael's. I get nearly a perfect impression every time. There is a single die that cuts out all of those sentiments at the same time. And I love what a time saver that is. I have trimmed down our panel. This one killed me a little. Honestly, I kept every little scrap that I trimmed off, but I wasn't sure if I was going to make this like non-traditional and a little taller. Ultimately, I wanted my mirror ball kind of up towards the top. It's going to hang off the card, but I don't know, things just felt a little unbalanced. So I'm adding a strip to the left-hand side out of some black glitter cardstock, just a scrap that I had. And I think that makes it more balanced because I trimmed a little extra off of one of the sides and I was like, oh no, how do I save it now? This is a really thin silver cardstock, okay? And so I am just smearing it around with the back of my finger to make sure I don't get any weird lumpy bumpy pieces behind there as that glue is drying. I am grabbing some unicorn sparkles from Emergency Card Essentials die set number 2. This is the one I designed for Trinity Stamps. I like that there are more sizes and that they're a little more pointy, I guess, on the tips and a little taller than they are wide. And then I will use one of our foiled sentiments that says Be Fearless. And it's going to be many months before I can bring myself to give this card away. I'm going to go ahead and add on all my little pieces of bling. I got them laid out and I'll show you a couple, but really for the larger ones, I just create a little cross of glue on the background of my card. And then for the smaller ones, I'll go ahead and use my wax pickup tool to grab each of those. It's easy enough to do it this way. I don't want to have to grab my tweezers if I don't have to. This is just faster. I had a little bit of glue ooze out on this last one, so I'm just going to use the sort of pokey tip of my tool to pull that away. I didn't want it to mar the very shiny finish on our card. I'm adding a few dots with a silver ballpoint pen, and that finishes up card number 3. I'm going to bring this up towards the camera. Look at the shine on this card. Wait for it. Wait for it. Here you go. It is gorgeous. Okay, for card number 4, we're getting fancy, right? But we can do it. I believe in us. This is the Sparkle Background Hot Foil Plate, and it will hot foil pretty much your whole A2 panel. Pretty much, not quite. You could put a disco ball kind of in the top center, but we're going to foil just half. I want that little hole where the disco ball might go right in the middle. And so I ran that through my die cutting machine after I let the plate heat up a whole bunch on the machine. It's a really big plate, so I gave it a little extra time. And then I am going to pull that foil off, and it came out pretty well. There's some spots right on the edge that aren't perfect. That's okay. I have another piece of foil, and I'm going to lay that onto my cardstock, and I'm going to tape it to the cardstock. I don't want it shifting. I don't want over foil on top of the things we already foiled. So I'm just using some of the Best Ever craft tape to hold that into place. Then I've heated this up, and I have to push it over a little bit if I really want this to fit. And I've marked the center that from the first foiling with a sticker on the back. I can see it really well. It left an impression in the cardstock, but that was to kind of make sure you could see. That's where I was aiming for the center. Is it perfect? Nope. That's okay. We're going to cut a hole in the middle. I knew that at the outset, or I might have tried a little harder to make sure they were perfectly lined up. I am just using a mono sand eraser to get rid of a few spots where I have overfoiling, and I think you might see them in the end card, but they're very minimal. All right, this page is available to paid members at any tier, starting at $2 as long as you grab it very soon. Okay, I will leave this until at least Sunday. It's part of that limited time access. I printed it onto a transparency sheet because I'm a teacher and I still have that. I'm going to run this through my mini Minc. I wasn't sure if it was going to work. I did kind of a test run and it foiled at heat level 1. So that's where I have it right now. It's not going to work. Just spoiler, we're going to have to bump up the heat. But this is something I was telling you about in my last video, right? If it's not working, what do you do? So I wanted to show you very specifically how I check to see if it foiled, because I don't actually want to peel that foil all the way off and then put it back on. I want it to stay in the same spot. So this runs through, it takes, I don't know, 30 seconds, 45. I have it at double time right now. And then I want this to cool all the way down. That toner is like little pieces of plastic. It melts. Right? Now you've got hot plastic. It's sort of sticky. And when it cools, it should grab onto the foil, but I'm peeking and there's nothing. So I'm just checking the corners. And if I don't see the foiling result I want, I try again. Now I told you guys, just run it through at the same heat level. Sometimes that will do it. Well, I tried it at level 2 and I got nothing. And then level 3, this one's gonna work. And I was so happy. These are just, again, like regular school transparency sheets. I have a box of like 100 of them. I probably still have 80 left. But you could probably find some on Amazon. Definitely do a test if you're going to try to hot foil them. This isn't heat resistant, special, anything, but they are printable on a laser printer. I was looking for that before I ran it through. If you've ever run something through a laser printer at work and it comes off and it's still warm, I figured if it could handle a laser printer, it would have at least some tolerance to heat. Okay, so here we are with our foiled panel. And actually, it's bigger than A2. I forgot about that because I knew I would want to trim it down. And good thing, because it's not centered again. You guys, it was a whole day of not centered, but this gives me the opportunity to, again, just trim off little slivers. I do want this to be A2 in size. So it'll be 4¼ by 5½ when I'm done. And I'm okay with it being a little high, but I definitely want it centered from side to side. So I have an A2 card base. I'm going to lay this right on top and put a little removable adhesive in the middle. And then I will lay the centerpiece right back on top of it. All right. Then I can open that up, pop the die on top, and run it through my die cutting machine. Again, make sure the card is open or you're going to cut all the way through the card base. We don't want that. Now I can sandwich my acetate in between the two layers. I wasn't sure anything about this card was going to work. I doubted whether or not I could get that foil plate to work this way. I doubted whether or not I could get the acetate to foil. This was a good day. This was like all of the crafting gods were with me. So I am using a little bit of double-sided tape around the edge. I'm not putting it everywhere, but just enough to kind of hold it in place there. I will have glue on the other layer. I'll remove it using the pokey end of my pickup stick from Trinity Stamps, and then I can get that centered right over the top. Okay, so I'm going to open it up, create a little bit more contrast for myself, and you can sort of twist and turn this to go a lot of different directions. These are sized so that you could put a disco ball in the middle, but you don't have to, right? I added a little bit more tape on top of the acetate once that was in place. I do like the sort of immediate grab you get from that double-sided tape, but I'm also adding a bunch of glue both on the acetate and on the card base, and then I will just layer this piece over the top. There are lots of ways you could finish this card, but if things are working, you better go big, right? So I have another one of our mirror balls that I had just sort of set aside, and this one's going to go on the front of the card. I'm going to put it at an angle so the top of our mirror ball is sort of in the middle of the sentiment at the top. And then I have another one that I have cut out of black cardstock that I will put right behind it. The hot foil, not hot foil, better press that you can hot foil plates come with dies that match each of the mirror balls so that you can press them or foil them or whatever and then cut them out. So you can do all of that with the same set. Then I'm actually going to create a whole nother panel. So I'm creating just a standard A2 card base. Okay. And then I'm going to cut some slivers off of the card that we've been working on and this other card base. All right. So here's the back. I'm going to cut a tiny sliver. Spoiler, that's not enough. I probably needed about double that, but I prefer to go really light and then I can always take more off. So I'm going to take the back that is short and then I'm going to take the part of the fully white card that is short and sort of sandwich those pieces in the middle. So here I am, I'm going back and I'm taking just another sliver off of it. Because the front of my card is black, I want to make sure that I'm not going to see like a little sliver of white all the way down at the bottom. It's close right now. I'm going to do one more round of that, but no big deal. You don't need to see it again. I have a piece of shimmer white cardstock that I'm going to put on the inside. And then I don't know what I did with the footage. I am going to ink blend this. After I add it onto the card base, just trimming off the excess because that's our short side, right? I just used a little marine ink and then a large blending brush to bring that up from the bottom. Would have been way easier to do before I glued that onto the card, but it works out just fine. So we're going to go ahead and attach our two panels together. I'm going to add some glue onto the inside of the blue panel. It's upside down based on a normal card. And then we're going to glue that to the back of our regular card. And now I have a tri-panel card. Okay, so I have a way to write a message that will get completely hidden when the card is closed. I have yet another mirror ball. I made dozens, friends, dozens. I'm going to hold it directly behind the one in the window, add glue, and then press it down. So it's going to end up on the blue panel, and it's going to be hidden when the card is closed. I'm going to use one of our hot foiled sentiments right over the top of it. It says dance like no one is watching. It fits entirely on top of that, which I love. These collections are are from 2 different designers, but they clearly coordinate really, really nicely together. And then once again, I have my little unicorn sparkles that I will add to the inside. I just felt like it was a little naked in there. And that wasn't gonna work. Wasn't gonna work. If you're watching this video kind of as it comes out, friends, be sure to check out the Spellbinders Black Friday sale. It says early Black Friday sale, but last year they had an early Black Friday sale, and then on Black Friday they added a few more items, but really the sale wasn't all that different. So I would shop it early because there are doorbusters. I will link to all that below. But here's our finished card number 3. I love this one. You could do it with tons of different kinds of products. I just think a trifold is always a fun surprise. For those of you who are still with me, please let me know what kit themes you want to see coming up next. We have a birthday kit coming in January, but other than that, I have 0 plans. So put them in the comments below. Maybe I'll pick yours. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.